Morning. I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting for March 23rd to order. Mr. Lear's out of town with a family matter, and so I'll be running the meeting for him. And Mr. Long is away ill. We're extra precaution, making sure that it is not the COVID word. So we're going to take that precaution. I asked him to stay away today until we know for sure. Those rapid tests aren't always accurate, so wait a couple of days. So before we get going, could I get a motion to approve them into the meeting?
Polk.
Ms. Polk, second. Mr. Payton, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, now we can do roll call.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Swanson? Mr. Hess?
Present.
Ms. Polk?
Present.
Ms. Weber? Present. Mr. Payton? Ms. Parker? Present. Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Featherling? Mr. Dunnell? Mr. Miller?
Present.
Mr. Long?
Present.
Mr. Hunter?
Present.
Mr. Raymond? Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
Mr. Seroy? We have a quorum.
Thank you. No public comment today or presentations. Approval of minutes, February 23rd. Is there a motion on that? Mrs. Parker, Mrs. Weber with a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Just mention this to start with. We are going to have an executive session, informational, regarding a purchase of real estate. We're going to do that at the end. I just want to mention that now. We don't have to vote on anything coming out. It's just informational at this point. I just wanted to make the committee aware of some things. And then we do have a quorum. So the other thing is if we have some people that have to take off today about 10 o'clock, if we have a voting item left, I'll ask for a motion to move that up so we can get voting business done by that time. So at about 9:50, I'll check in to see where we're at, and we may have to interrupt somebody who's presenting. Could be the treasurer by that point or whatever, just to get that vote done in discussion. So I apologize for that, but we want to make sure we can do business. So the first item here is the authorizing the county board chairman to sign an agreement with White and Company for the Kankakee County building projects. That was in the packet. Hope everybody had a chance to look through that. This is the result of our RFQ and the previous approval to look at a series of infrastructure projects within the county. The goal is to be able to put real plans and numbers behind what we wanted to take a look at in combination with using funding mechanisms like alternate revenue bonds, the ARPA funds, combination thereof, grants from that we have to work on the ADA issues at the courthouse, kind of take advantage of all the opportunities we have right now with the overall goal of not building a bunch of new structures, if you will, but repurposing and really reinvesting in the county operations, things we know that the taxpayers are going to have to address over the next 10, 15 years out of their own pocket. We said, let's take a look and see what we can use this found money that our local taxpayers have not paid for with property taxes and try to redeploy those within the community and get the biggest bang, long-term bang for the buck that we possibly can. So we have all talked about these. We know what these projects are. Whether they're still nebulous and we need to drill down even further, or they're very specific. And so those are in the packet and under with different, I guess, project numbers and then tasks that will take the necessary steps to be able to put, engineering, initial costing, and then if we go further, then the actual construction drawings and things like that. It allows us to stage this and not spend money until it's appropriate to spend money as we commit to these projects. So that being said, we have Jason Dwyer and Reagan Pattison on from White. They are here to answer any questions you might have. I also asked Doug Bright to come in as our architect because it's always nice for the committee to hear, are these normal and customary? Does this sound about right as far as the charges go? Because not a lot of us do multiple building projects at once, and so we might not have that experience to be able to judge what those costs should be. So I asked Doug to come in to do that. So with Jason and Reagan, are you guys? Yeah, I see Jason come in. Good morning.
Yep. Good morning.
Morning. So as I teed that up, is there anything else that I'm missing there, Jason? We've been going back and forth for a couple of weeks on this, just making sure we had the presentation, or at least the project scopes all defined and put in front of the committee in the proper manner. So is there anything to add there, Jason?
No, I think that was a great summary. You know, you've all identified some priority projects, and the goal here with this initial work is to add a little bit more detail to that, look at some conceptual designs, try to advance those forward. I think, you know, you all know that we completed a space needs or facility needs study a little while back that's helped to frame up what some of the county's needs are for spaces. So the objective in this proposal is to take those priority projects, develop a little bit more detail on the design, firm up pricing a little bit, ensure that they're all aligned within your budget parameters, and then, you know, you'll be ready to move forward with the execution of projects. One specific project that we're, as part of this proposal, looking to take a little farther, because I think it's just got a little bit more detail to it already, is the animal control facility. So that project, we're actually, as part of this proposal, going to take that through complete construction documents and get it ready to bid, so you can move that project forward into the implementation phase. The other work with courthouse upgrades, I know Doug Bright has been working on some concepts for lower level there. We had a good chance to meet and go through that. That may free up some opportunities to address other space needs within the courthouse for the circuit clerk. So that project, as well as other opportunities within the courts system, are being advanced on a study phase right now to you know, keep things moving forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have about the proposal or what's being proposed here.
So, it's really up to the committee how you want to handle this. And thanks, Jason, and good morning to you both. The do you want to run through each one? Do you want to go into questions from that you might have already gleaned from reading this last night? It's really up to you how you want to do this as a committee. We can talk about the one in more specificity, like animal control, because we're going to discuss that a little bit later in the executive session, you know, as us identifying a property and getting to the point of offers and things like that. So, you know, that one's moving along a little quicker, so we can dive into that if you would like, as an example on how all the rest of these may go. If you think that's a good example, is that the committee? You tell me. I mean, we can go through each and every one of these. It's your call. Mrs. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to hear more about the animal control building.
Okay. Somehow I thought that dog was going to hunt. Is that a good way to say it? Sorry. I'm sorry. It was right there. So we've talked about this, and Steve McCarty's here to kind of comment on this. We've got about, beyond the purchase of the land side of it, we've got about $1.5 million in alternate revenue bond capacity based on the revenue for animal control to put out a bond for a addition to a building, or if it was to, you know, refit an existing building and all of that. So that's our budget limitation, because that's the bonding capacity we would have. You know, we couldn't go out there and do that because the revenue wouldn't support it going through animal control, because it's still a separate corporate entity within county government. So as we looked at that, that was our budgetary number. And so from that, we've kind of, you know, backed into, well, what does an animal control facility need to have in terms of this county? And Jason and Reagan can please add on to this, but it takes these processes to be able to say, yes, we need this many kennel spaces, it needs to have this type of wash down facilities, it needs to have X, Y, and Z, we need a separate area for this, we need this over here, we need runs. So as we've identified property, we need to make sure we've got enough room for all of this stuff, and then also it fits into the $1.5 million envelope that we have. And so that's kind of where Jason is at. And then if you look at, let me see if I can find a page number here. Hold on just one second, please. So if you look at page 5 of 7, it's a left-hand page if you keep flipping through here a little bit. Well, not on your iPad, sorry. It says Project 1 New Animal Control Facility, Task 1, which is that whole part of take the project through preparation of construction documents, costing, conceptual design, meeting with the staff, doing all the things that we just talked about. And then here's what you would get for that $1.5 million in that side of things. So is that a good summary, Jason and Reagan, about how this process works?
Yeah, that's great. I think we have divided that specific project into two tasks. We understand that there's a potential property in play. I believe that's something you may speak about in your executive session. But yeah, as you said, the first step is we've already had some meetings with representatives from animal control to talk about what the needs are for the facility. So we've already documented some of that, but the first step is to develop that in a little bit more detail, the specifics of space for indoor runs, outdoor runs, and identifying property that is in a location that outdoor runs aren't going to be disruptive to any neighbors and that sort of thing. So the first step is to develop that in a little more detail and really to confirm that the anticipated site and building is going to meet the needs and how it would meet the needs. Right now, we believe that the property in question can be renovated to accommodate some of the needs of animal control, but would need an addition to accommodate the full need. So that'll all be kind of reviewed in step one. If that all checks out and everything's good and you're able to come to an agreement on purchase price for the property, then we would proceed forward to complete the final design and construction documents so that the project could be bid out. And again, doing all of that in concert with what your established budget is to make sure that as we develop that design that we're aligned with what your funding availability is. So yeah, that's kind of the process, a two-step process on that one, because we want to make sure that we're properly validating the proposed property that you're looking to acquire before we get too far down the path.
Yes, Mrs. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason just answered my second question about the needs from the directors and making sure that it fits all the needs that they require.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you. Sounds good.
Yeah, directors, vets, everybody's, I almost said it, has a horse in the race. But in that aspect, and just to kind of draw the parallel, take it all the way through, if you see the project one, task one, that's what we're just speaking of right now, the pre-construction, pre-green light phase, if you will. That's $19,500. Okay, that's the cost, and that's all attributable to our ARPA fund, obviously. It'll go to the lost revenue side of it, but because at this point there's no direct COVID tie-in with this project. So we would set that to the side, over there. We could use that funds and it won't come out of the general fund. That's important. At this point, I want to make sure that the things I've said in this amount of money, that's one of the reasons I asked Doug to come was, this 19.5 and this 102,000 for phase two, construction documents, all of that. In your professional opinion, does that seem in line with what we're asking them to do? And he's nodding yes back there. I just want to make sure. You should say it, yeah, if it's on the mic or something, or you can sit next to Larry if you want to. Yeah, I'd go to the mic too. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding with you, man. I'm just kidding.
The proposal that White submitted to the county was pretty thorough in terms of scope and task items, in terms of detail of what they propose to do. And the fee schedule that they propose for each of these tasks is in line with industry standards in terms of level of effort, in terms of what the scope items dictate.
Okay. And so the committee knows he's working for you in that assessment, not for them. So I just want to make sure that is an independent, assessment of this, because he's not in any type of a relationship with those guys. That may change at some point because we can save on efficiencies. If somebody needs something measured, something going out and a drawing adjusted, it's easier to call him, who's right down the road, than to have somebody coming from up north and time and materials and things like that. So, but at this juncture, we're just utilizing your professional opinion. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair.
Is there any other questions for Doug before he sits back down? I just want to make sure for Doug. Go ahead, Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I was reading the highlights in the newspaper yesterday about the proposed expansion of the Manteno Police Department and what they're going to be doing and so forth. And I was talking to Chief Swinford, and he was telling me about it'll take care of their needs for X number of years. And my question, and I don't know if Tinker would know if that question has been posed, because I know that's her baby. With the acquisition of the property and the renovation of the properties and so forth, it will take care of our animal control needs for how many years in the future, if you can give any specificity at all in that particular issue.
Jason, be better prepared, because I heard him ask the question and I don't know how he framed it. I can't remember, because we were discussing how many kennel spaces did they need. You know, what's the future look like? So I'm Jason, do you have any?
Yeah, I can't give you an exact number of years, 20 years, but that's absolutely what we're looking to do in task one. The representatives and leaders of the animal control group have, provided good detail, and that's the kind of detail we'll continue to look at in terms of projections. They've got, good information on what, how many animals they've been housing. We talked about things like, peak situations where maybe they have to bring in a bunch of animals for a short period of time. So that's the kind of detail we're going to look at, and why we have it as a two-step process. The first step being validation of, what the overall needs are, and ensuring that the property selected can meet that need. And quite honestly, I think, what we're looking at is you've got a set budget number that's available for the project. We're going to try to maximize the usage of those funds to give you, the biggest and best facility possible to meet the needs. But we're always looking at those types of things with an eye toward, what might happen down the road. So if the property is acquired and there's opportunities for even future expansion, I mean, we're talking maybe it's 20 years down the road, but we always try to look at those things when we're doing projects to make sure that, if things change, I mean, we see these things happen from time to time where positions or situations change, or there's new legislation that comes into play, and we're always looking to make sure that you've got flexibility in the future in case something like that were to happen.
Thanks.
Okay.
Is there anything else for Doug specifically? I didn't want you to be standing up there. Okay, thanks, Doug. Now we'll move on to, and you see what the phase two, we've kind of talked about that a little bit. That's where the rubber meets the road. We have a concept, we would vote on that. But again, it'll cost us to get to that point. But then we execute that portion of it. And then we're off and running on an animal control facility, which is something that we talked about and wanted to do for a couple of years. So that's kind of that. We can go through each one of these. If you have specific questions, project 2 is the courthouse upgrades. I'm sorry?
We're having issues with Zoom.
We lost Zoom here. Hold on just 1 second, please. Are we still broadcasting?
YouTube is also down. Jason's recording it, so he can post it later. But
Okay. Give us just a moment. I want to make sure we're still recording the meeting and everything.
That's what I'm saying.
okay.
Here we go.
Here we go.
All right.
Gone again.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a way to get confirmation from Jason that we're recording? Are we good? Okay, thanks. That was quick. Thumbs up. Okay. Technology's great when it works. All right.
Mr. Lear's trying to get your attention.
Steve, yes.
I was wondering the timeline on task 1 and task 2.
Task 1 would be complete in 4 weeks, and then task 2 was 10 weeks after that. So in just about a month, we should have a good idea if they will fit within the budgetary envelope and what that rough design would look like. Am I correct in that, Jason?
That's correct.
Okay. Which is really good news. It's quicker than I thought it would be, but we're hitting the ground running. All right, so that's project 1. Now project 2 is the courthouse work that we're currently doing right now, and we will take a look at a couple of different things that are going on there. First of all, the basement is underway. Remember, we got the $400,000 ADA grant, and then we're going to do the space needs, the jury assembly build out, the extra restrooms, the HVAC stuff, cleared out. The circuit clerk has almost all her files out, redoing the whole basement in a COVID, or should I say contagion not free, but improved environment, and also space needs, keeping people separated down in the basement. So we're able to utilize a combination of funds. The ADA stuff is paid for with the grant, and I think about an equal amount because of building materials. It's looking like it's going to be another 400 out of, COVID/lost revenue. And so I'm just letting you know, it's going to be a lot of work down there, and it's going to be a major upgrade for the people that have to serve on juries. You'll be shocked to see what we're going to do down there as far as the comfort level and the appreciation we can show towards those who are, well, doing their civic duty. So that is, lockers for them to bring iPads and phones and whatever else down there. It's stuff like that that'll help things out, and then we're just not so crammed in a little space. So that one's phased as well. That project 2. And by the way, we are just going to probably bid that out as a general contractor type situation, but we left the possibility to get White involved because the projects that we do in the basement are going to be connected to things that we do upstairs, and in some manner. So we wanted to make sure that we have that cohesion. The second, so we got task 2 would be the air quality. We're going to take a look at all the HVAC. I think we have the original 1920s blower units on the roof there, squirrel cages and whatever else. But yeah, it's something else. But yeah, so we're going to take a look at all of that within the dome and everywhere in the building at the same time, and that's called out under this cost structure. And then task 3 would be taking a look at the ADA issues that we know we have to address in the circuit clerk's office. We have solved the date certain portion of the Attorney General's suit against the county. We fixed all the ADA stuff that was critical. Now we're into the stuff that's they say you still have to do, but they gave us time to do it. One of those is the working conditions for the employees, especially those with disabilities, really could not work in the circuit clerk's office as it's laid out right now. And so it's just crammed into one space. So if we're looking at this, what does that redo look like on the first floor? And how does that relate to traffic court and other stuff? So that's another process, and you'll see task 1 and task 2 and the amounts for all of those. So those are not huge costs. Those are a lot less because we're not to the construction drawing phase yet. Those are just the ones getting all the drawings and saying, this is how much it'll cost. That will allow this committee to budget. And at some point, we'll just have to say, there's a line. We're out of money here. But it's better to know what everything is because at least we've gone through the process, because these are all things we know we have to do. These aren't things that are kind of nice to do, be kind of cool. No, this is stuff we have to do, maybe not today, but it's going to have to be done in the next 10, 15 years, especially we know that census was not accurate, and we are going to need more space in the courthouse as our population continues to grow, because it's going to grow.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in keeping what you're saying, yeah, that's what I was. Your last sentence kind of answered my question. Is looking at off-campus locations. Is that going to be a part of this as well too? Because as you indicated, I know a lot of it.
Yeah, that's project 3. That's the next one on the list. Yeah, that's part of it is to say, okay, well, if we have to do something and if we need to do something, is it greenfield? I think that's too expensive with the cost of materials. Refitting an existing property for our purposes, as I've talked about, we all like to drive the Rolls Royce, but maybe it's the Buick that's going to get us around for a while. That's kind of where we're at financially. So we're not talking $190 million courthouse, and I want to make sure that doesn't ever creep into anybody's mind that the county was looking at 8-10 years ago. This is something affordable that will allow us to spend the next 20 to 50 years with what we have and the public be able to utilize the court systems. So we're in discussions with the courts on what that looks like right now. But in terms of Jason and Reagan's task, that's what that new potential new satellite court building would be. And new is probably a renovated. That's probably the better accurate term. But then also there's the project 4 is the county, our future plan concept overall. This building's useful life is ending. We all know that work here, how much it costs to heat and cool this building and pulling wire through 4-foot walls of concrete every time you need a new something done. It's cost prohibitive. It's really an albatross around our neck. So if things lined up and we could do some things different, what would that look like and how much would that cost? You know, so that's more like a long-term strategic plan as far as our properties go. Would you say that's accurate, Jason? The way to look at it?
Yeah, that was something that we identified in the facility needs study, is that, you know, the building you've got now really it does have its challenges in terms of ending, you know, getting toward the end of the useful life. So in that project 4, we're looking at opportunities that may come about for, you know, addressing your long-term needs for county government functions at a new location.
Sure. And then the last couple are parking is a major problem around the courthouse. It's scattered. It's all over the place. Employees are parking because they get there first around the courthouse. Not blaming them, but everybody else has to park down the block and walk in. What does a parking solution look like around the courthouse that feeds into what the city of Kankakee is already doing, and or supports and is in conjunction with? Let's see, and explore options. Oh, the bus barns. We have the $700,000 grant for a show bus building. I asked them to take a look at helping us identify what's that best location is. We kind of have an idea there, but then what does that building need to look like? And again, $700,000, it may seem like a lot. It's not a lot these days. And then it'll take you 2 years to get the materials. So, so that's about it. I know I talked through it, but I think this is an important step. It's a culmination of a lot of work we've done for a year, and then also really where we're gonna go in the next year and then beyond. So it's kind of important. So please let me know if you have any questions here. Any questions for Doug, Steve, because of the ARPA implications, or Reagan and Jason? Or a motion to approve, and then we move forward on all this stuff.
Polk.
Ms. Polk with a motion, Mrs. Parker with a second. Any other comments? This is spending money, even though some of this will come back once we get better numbers. So let's have a roll call, please.
Mr. Lear,
Aye.
Mr. Hess, Ms. Polk,
Yes.
Ms. Weber, Mr. Payton, Ms. Parker, Mr. Miller, Mr. Long,
Aye.
Mr. Hunter,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you for that. Sorry about the verbose explanation. I just thought it was necessary this time.
No, I think it was informative. It wasn't verbose.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe that's because I've talked about this so much over the last month that it seems like I'm gushing, but it's a lot of work to get to this point, and then we're just starting. So, all right, well, thanks for your time. I know you guys may want to sit here and watch the wheels of government grind slowly, painfully, but you're free to go. We'll talk soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. All right, Mr. McCarty, Finance Department. And if I do interrupt somebody to talk about this consolidated vehicle procurement, I apologize on the front end.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, we got a lot to cover. Unless anybody has any questions, as far as the regular reports, you know, sales tax, PPRT, really positive, so that's a nice trend. So nothing, I don't have anything specific, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I won't spend any more time on it.
Okay. Good.
No questions. All right. Cash flow, looking good. As far as June is actually, our trend is actually on our averages gone up. So 3.7 is our estimate for June, which is our lowest. So I'm smiling when I say that. So no issues to look forward there. So looking good on the cash flow front through the toughest time of the year. So unless there's any questions there.
Nope, no comments.
Okay. Claims that came down unrecommended. The first one, Verizon Wireless, is for animal control. We covered this last year, and we kind of discussed like a fiscal year blanket coverage. We're in a new fiscal year, so I brought it to you to renew that. previous notes, I believe the previous note, going back probably a year or so, that on the bill, there's still, I believe the name Julie Boudreau is what's throwing it off, on the bill, but, that would have to be, you're seeing what I'm seeing as far as what we received, from the auditor's office, so.
Motion to approve all these claims?
Yeah, I guess Steve's question was, this is gonna keep coming back every cell phone bill. So can we take this one and say this objection for the entire year is approved
For the Verizon.
for the Verizon bill for animal control, as long as nothing is different? Is that fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
if we see this previous note.
I don't want to
that'd
stop
be-
the auditor from objecting to something else that has to do with the Verizon bill, because that's his role and responsibility, and to bring that in front of the committee. But this is he just doesn't like the names on there, at which there is no valid objection to. So we can approve this objection for the whole year. Is there a motion? Mr. Hess?
I make
second?
that motion.
Mr. Long with a second. Roll call vote on that one, please.
Mr. Lear,
Aye.
Mr. Hess, Ms. Polk,
Aye.
Ms. Weber, Mr. Payton,
Aye.
Ms. Parker, Mr. Miller, Mr. Long,
Aye.
Mr. Hunter,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler,
Aye.
motion carries.
Quick question, Mr.
Chairman.
Oh, yes, Mr. Hunter, please.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure a way to frame this. Does the auditor's office interface with us other than objections? Is there any dialogue with the chair or Mr. McCarty or the chairman of the finance committee at all? Can anybody attest that there's been dialogue with him or his office?
They haven't reached out to me on any of this. Mr. Lear?
I did send him one letter making a request from him, but I've gotten no response.
How long ago was that, Commissioner Lear?
I think it was about 2 weeks ago.
It was after the last finance committee when we asked him to send, we asked Mr. Lear to send a letter asking for his objections in writing, because we couldn't read what the objections
Right.
were. And
Yeah, because those were hieroglyphics. Yeah, I couldn't read some of that either. Yeah.
So he didn't respond nor send us those objections in writing, so. We can't force it, we can just request it, so. Does
Okay,
the
thank
sheriff, has anyone reached out regarding this to you or to your office regarding this cell phone situation or anything else?
Nobody from the auditor's office has reached out to us about it. However, we will contact Verizon so the name on it doesn't become an issue. I would let this committee know that, and I'm sure our maintenance director can attest to it, that I believe we still get bills in the name of the former maintenance director, and I don't know if any of those get rejected or not. So I don't know if this is a personal thing with the sheriff's office or what, but
Appears that way.
consistency would be nice.
Yeah. All right, moving on, and that's noted. The next one, sorry, we had to do that one separately.
Yeah, O'Halloran, Kosoff, Geithner, Cook, professional services for the lawsuit.
So this is, the auditor also continuously objects to our legal fees from him suing us. So I don't quite understand that, but it is what it is. So this one's hard to do a blanket because the number may change. So we have to bring this back each time. Mrs. Parker?
Thank you, Chairman. Isn't this a conflict of interest for him to reject something that he's involved in?
Well, he can't reject it. He can recommend non-approval.
Right.
So he's not physically rejecting
Right.
anything. His job is ministerial. It's not to set policy, it's to follow it. So
Yeah.
I don't, it's frustrating, but this one, like, it's $215. It'll increase over the next years because this isn't stopping anytime soon, it appears, but I would hope it does, by the way. I hope we can come to an arrangement. But,
I do too.
it doesn't seem possible at this point, but I'm gonna give every ounce, everything I have to do so. But again, we can't do a blanket because it could be more than $215. And then you know, I would just say we have to handle these in a one-off situation each time. And then the next item is TV install in EOC. Is that?
This is part of the EOC project. So 098 is our lost revenue fund. So it identified, we received 2 of them like this. Identifying, we sent the resolution, the claim and the resolution back, but still no signature. So so we brought it here. So the board has already approved this. This is a individual item connected to the whole project that was approved. So there's the resolution is already attached for the, you know, that the board already blessed this project. So
It says something, I can't really read the notes.
something about competitive bidding.
Should establish policy for competitive bidding. I can't read the rest of it. The policy is the law. It's $30,000. I don't. Balls and strikes would be nice. You know what I mean? Call balls and strikes. So anyway, the next one.
Yeah, the last was invoice from Christensen Auto. Just need better quality invoice. As you know, Amy said this as far as how this transpired, which I'm not sure. She said it is legible. It's not perfect, but it is legible. So it's she requested it come here just because I don't believe she had any other options. So, as far as getting stuff.
So
15 wiper blades.
what I'm trying to figure this out. So this claim went back to Amy? And
No, I sent it to Amy.
Okay.
And let her, read it, and so they could understand what this was. What we got back. So.
Second letter in act is collaboration. Just want to mention that. It's not just a campaign promise, you actually have to do it. Okay, well, is there a motion to combine and approve these?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion that we combine and approve all of these.
Thank you, Mr. Long.
Second.
Second, Ms. Polk. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lear,
Aye.
Mr. Hess,
Aye.
Ms. Polk, Ms. Weber, Mr. Payton, Ms. Parker, Mr. Miller, Mr. Long,
Aye.
Mr. Hunter,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right. You have the claims in front of you. Is there a motion to accept the claims report as presented?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hunter, Mr. Payton with a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lear,
Aye.
Mr. Hess,
Aye.
Ms. Polk,
Aye.
Ms. Weber, Mr. Payton, Ms. Parker, Mr. Miller, Mr. Long,
Aye.
Mr. Hunter,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right. FY21 General Fund Department budget adjustments.
Yeah, so this these budget adjustments are internal. It does not change the total general fund allocation, so it's not an amendment. We've known these in the past as a contingency adjustment. There was no contingency in FY21, so we're basically just shifting around for various reasons for these various departments for the final budget and presentation for the year-end financial report. So corrections basically took care of the sheriff and merit, and then planning took care of the other miscellaneous departments as far as adjustment wise. So when you see a negative, that's where it's coming from, and then the positives are where it's going to. So shift around. It does not need to go to the full board in the past because we're not amending it. We've just, the finance committee has blessed that and to make that adjustment.
It's just a year-end cleanup is what we do. We have to make sure everything matches. So is there a motion on this to approve? Mrs. Weber, second. Mrs. Pope, without any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lear,
Aye.
Mr. Hess,
Aye.
Ms. Polk,
Aye.
Ms. Weber, Mr. Payton, Ms. Parker, Mr. Miller, Mr. Long,
Aye.
Mr. Hunter,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler,
Aye.
motion carries.
Let's see here. ARPA funding requests.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was wondering, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Something just ran across my mind. I was with Mayor Curtis and former Alderman Tyler Tall, and we were just discussing some stuff in terms of refinancing debt and all that stuff. I was wondering, do we have any outstanding bonds that we could refinance? Because it seems like the Fed is going to hit us in terms of increasing the interest rates and stuff.
Steve, could we handle that at the end, because we've got to get everything voted on, because we're going to lose a quorum here in a little bit. And
okay.
that's a really involved discussion. It's a good one to have. We've looked at that, but I think if we could wait on that until after we've got all the voting items done.
No problem.
Thanks for that, but I appreciate it. So yeah, going through ARPA requests, the first one, the assessor's office. You've got all these in your packet too, by the way.
The first one is for lost revenue, Kinky County Supervisor Assessment Office, a format printer malfunction, no longer operational. So the request is not to exceed $3,000 to replace that format printer in the assessor's office.
Move to approve.
Well, we're going to combine.
Second.
We're going to combine these in a second, so let's get them both into the record, so we can just have one vote on these.
That'll work.
Yeah.
I thought you were in a hurry, so I was just.
No, we're going to roll.
All right, second one for lost revenue, the Village of Union Hill. This would be a reimbursement only. They fall under the 20,000 cap for non-covered government units. Per the application, it's for the construction of the post office that I believe burned there, and other things associated with that.
So again, that's a reimbursement. A private citizen is going to rebuild or build a building with a post office in it, and then the city is going to acquire that from the individual. It's a citizen in there, and so once that happens, they would submit an invoice, and then it would be reimbursement. We're not paying money on the front end. After the city takes it, we would be helping them out in that manner, or the village, excuse me. So that's if there's any questions about that, it's a little bit different, but it's a municipality that basically got next to nothing in the ARPA. And when Van Fab burned out there, it also took out the post office too, and the employees need a post office for sure. So, so is there any questions about that? We want to make sure that, these are pretty much come with the recommendation that they fit within the silos that they're in. So without that, is there a motion on this one to combine and approve?
I'll make that.
Mr. Hunter, Mrs. Weber with a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, on those.
Mr. Lear,
Aye.
Mr. Hess,
Aye.
Ms. Polk,
Aye.
Ms. Weber, Mr. Payton,
Aye.
Ms. Parker,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Long,
Aye.
Mr. Hunter,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, and then the next group are all ARPA proper, which means we can charge the ARPA fund for those instead of the lost revenue side, correct?
Correct. So you want to put it as a group then?
Yeah, we'll do them as a group,
Okay.
we just explain what the amount is, what the request and their eligibility based on ours and really the federal rules.
The Grace Christian Academy would be the first. They requested, there's a letter outlining what they were asking for. It's under code 3.9, which is healthy childhood environments for ceiling tile and mold potential. They requested 10,000. They are eligible for 10,000 for direct ARPA, and this would be reimbursement only as well. So we show us receipts that it's done. Jesse Bell Lane Memorial Park, Chabance. This is for replacement of a well. We have the water test as well. They sent us that. They requested 8,000, eligible for 8,000, would be under code 5.13, drinking water source, and also reimbursement only. Kinky Valley Park District, this would be under non-covered government. It's a 20,000 cap, 50% reduction within the city. Their request is 20,000. They're eligible for 10,000. This is for economic impact for what they've gone through the last couple of years. Locavore Farm, 2.9 for small business assistance. 10,000 cap, they are rule. Their requested amount of 350,000. They are eligible for 10,000. This was under fiscal impact as well, but they also have a narrative that I connected, what they sent us as well. More Than LLC are doing business as Fast Signs of Kankakee. Small business assistance 2.9. They're within the 10,000 cap fund. 50% reduction within municipality. Still didn't say it right. Crescent amount 50,000. They are eligible for 5,000 economic impact. Beta Nails and Spa and Mantino, small business assistance 2.9. Their request was 50,000, eligible for 5,000 because of the 50% reduction and economic impact as well. And last but not least, Kankakee County Maintenance Department, Serve Pro. I believe this has already been bid. Code 1.4, and it's for duct cleaning. And not to exceed 25,000 for that project. The county board, I believe, we've already started that process and got the bid on it already.
Right, it came out of Building and Grounds and to this committee. Is that 25 accurate, not to exceed? It could be less based on when they get in there. It's kind of hard to tell. Okay. So Wes confirmed that is a not to exceed number. Does someone have a question? Mr. Hunter, was that you?
No, I was just gonna, make the motion.
Okay. Motion to approve, combine and approve. Is there a second?
Polk.
Ms. Polk with a second. Any discussion on any of these particular items? Again, we go through the detail, like when someone said they needed a new well, we needed the water testing. New well's nice to have, but if it was necessary, then that's when we step in. So I just want to make sure that this committee knows and the rest of the board and the public that you got to actually prove that you had an economic impact, to the pandemic, or that these are legitimate requests, and they are. So roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber? Aye. Mr. Payton? Aye. Ms. Parker? Aye. Mr. Miller? Aye. Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Anything else, Steve?
Just included in your packet are the updated reports for ARPA. One thing that we'll have to discuss here soon, the remaining balance for the small business and nonprofit fund, the 250,000 bucket that was set aside is down to just over 37,000. So it's probably time to rediscuss that as far as a new bucket.
Along those lines, I think next month we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I think we should consider and think about it between now and then. Our gauge was 2019 through 2020 economic impact. Now that we've been doing this a year, maybe we go 20 to 21 and look at economic, because the pandemic was still going on from 20 to 21. So maybe we put a cutoff line. Okay, this is the end of our 2019-20 impact, if you will. Now we're going to start 20 to 21 and think about reauthorizing another amount. We couldn't do it today, but once we got that number, we thought, well, there was an impact for another year after that first year. So maybe we go down that road. It seems like it's been pretty successful. We gave a little bit of money to a lot of different people. And so maybe we continue that for the next go around. So just a thought. Steve, go ahead. Sorry.
And then per last meeting, Chairman Wheeler brought up the relook at Wright, I believe the Bradley House, which was for air conditioning unit. We researched, and the final rule compared to the interim final rule actually clarified and opened up air handling and air filtration improvements. So we are going to revisit that. That is new information from when the time that application and when we first evaluated it. So the playing field changed, so we're going back, and we'll probably come back and change Bishop McNamara back to direct instead of lost revenue for the same reason. So it's haven't seen nothing like this as far as the federal money and having it change on us, but we're trying to adapt.
We're trying to adapt, yeah.
Good grief.
I think there was a couple others we were looking at. There was a church where one was for like the main, I'll call it the preaching part of the church, and then one is for all the programs and all that part of the church, you know, the Sunday school or whatever, the community room. We can't pay for the you know, the preaching side, but we could do air conditioning on the other side because of the Supreme Court rule. I hope that makes sense. We're forbidden from giving money for the religious side of that church, but we can for the other side that does outreach and community stuff and other things like that. So we're going to go back and take another look at those as well now that things have changed.
Next month.
Next month, yeah, for next month. So if we could, can we shift gears real quick, because it's about 10 till some people have to leave. Ben, do you want to sit tight, and then maybe we can answer Steve's question about the bonds and things like that? So Ben, if you could, can I get a motion to adjust the agenda, move number 10 up now? Ms. Polk, second. Ms. Parker, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Ben, quick run through.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this, we got an application released for the Illinois Department of Transportation Consolidated Vehicle Procurement Program. And this is kind of a truncated program, but this is a 2022 program. And we, based on the qualifications, so you have in your packet kind of we call this the body of the document. It's about a 16-page application, but we pulled the kind of the paramount pages. And I guess as takeaway, no local match. That's always a nice, convenient thing to say to a board like this. You know, we're always looking to save money, so we don't have local taxpayer dollars involved. But you will notice our vehicles, I'm going to use the term bloated, look a little bloated on the list. 10 and 11 will be coming off of that list. Remember, we just recently went through the effort at PZA to declare those surplus. And we have not received the final. So K10 and K11 on that list of existing vehicles. We have one qualifying vehicle in the application. They allow us to either age out vehicles or mile out vehicles. So it's certain size vehicles, you get to a certain number of miles or a certain age and condition, and we're eligible to ask for a new vehicle. So we have one vehicle that's a medium duty, and we're going to apply for funds, not for funds, for a new vehicle. Essentially, the state does a giant bidding process. We're applying to them to say we want a super medium duty to replace a medium duty vehicle. So this would go into our fleet. It would be housed at South Tech with our other vehicles, and we would use it to haul passengers throughout Kankakee County.
Any questions for Ben to start with? Okay, if we get a motion, could I have in the motion also to include the treasurer's report and the collector's report as well? If we're ready for a motion, just so that all the voting's done. Is there a motion?
Awesome.
So moved to approve. Mr. Hunter, a second. Mr. Payton?
Polk.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Mr. Payton? Ms. Parker? Mr. Miller? Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I apologize. Can that motion include the resolutions as well, Mr. Hunter? The monthly
Of
resolution?
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Mr. Payton, thank you. I missed that one. So we could talk about those afterwards. I just want to make sure all voting's done. Now, your question, Steve, about refinancing bonds and interest rates and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm wondering about that because with this Ukraine thing, has impacted that particular facet of business, and I don't know if it's going to get any better. And incrementally, you've heard words from the Fed that they're probably going to do, some increases. I'm not sure in terms of how many basis points, but it doesn't look really good. It's like, but I was just wondering if we had any outstanding bonds that maybe needed refinancing at a lower rate before these increases take place.
Yeah, Mr. Hunter, we have looked at it, and the good news is our largest, three of our largest will be coming off within 2 years, will be done. But we have looked at what is outstanding, and we're in really good shape with all of them.
Yep.
And the rates are what?
I would have to do that research. I don't have that off the top of my head. I'm sorry. But I could get that to you.
And what's that big one you're talking about that'll be completed and satisfied in 2 years? What is that?
Well, there's 3 of them, and all related to the sheriff complex and the corner building, the garage and corner building and sheriff complex.
Mm-hmm.
Which the taxpayers will see a substantial drop in their county tax bill when that happens.
Okay.
That's coming off here in a couple of years, so we're looking forward to that. A lot of people are, believe me. So, and I think the only other bond we have is left is the court system, I believe, as far as of any substance.
And health has one as well. Yeah,
health department does, but those are obviously dedicated elsewhere. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Treasurer's office, Mr. Africano.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Hunter.
Nick, before we start, and I attended your father's visitation, and there were people from all walks of life who attended that particular venue, and I knew your dad, no members of your family. My mother went to school with your dad, and every time they would see each other, they would embrace. And we just want to let you know that your dad was a hell of a public servant. And I've never heard, and I've been involved, I'm an old dog, and I've been involved in politics for, this makes my 50th year, but I just want to let you know that there's never been a disparaging word to describe your dad, and I know not only is a loss for you and your family, but a loss for our community. He did so much stuff in the community and volunteered at St. Mary's for years as well too, but when you saw him, he always had a smile. And when I saw him, he wanted to know how my mama was doing. So, but anyway, I just wanted to share that with you on behalf of the county board and the community.
Thanks, Steve. I guess I can, since Steve brought it up, I'll start with that. I just wanted to offer my thanks from myself and my family for the outpouring of love and support that we received from all my colleagues here, from all sides of the aisle, and it was really appreciated. Made this difficult time a little more palatable. With that, it's soon to be tax time again, everybody's favorite time of the year. And wanted to we just finalized this yesterday. The first installment due date for real estate taxes will be due June 30th. Second installment will be due September 1st. And mobile home bills will be due September 15th. And tax sale will be on November 10th. So the last day to pay prepay taxes, and a lot of people are prepaying, will be the 29th of April, which is a Friday. And then we'll roll over, we stop, spend 2 weeks getting the bills ready. And the bills are tentatively scheduled right now to be in the mail on the 15th of May. So I think that's really all we have right now. Everything continues.
Any questions for Nick? His office. Is there still the opportunity to do a buck slip for e-waste?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
We'd like to do that again, I think. A lot of people told me they got that announcement in the tax bill.
I was going to do, and I'm glad you brought that up, I had done an insert before, and I was going to do it again, but with the cost of paper and envelopes right now, for us, it didn't make sense, but you may want to, if we're going to do that, we'll want to do it early, because if you can believe this, there's an amazing shortage on number 10 white envelopes in the country. Imagine that. So.
Yeah, I hear you. No, I appreciate it. Hey, I think it worked out well for us, and I appreciate your help in putting that together the first time. That was
no problem.
All right, thanks, Nick. Sheriff, have anything today for us? Mr. Hess? Mrs. Parker?
Hey,
We're losing. They're dropping like
it's not a
flies.
big deal now, Roger.
Happy birthday, Mr. Hess.
Yeah, happy birthday, Bones.
Happy birthday, Bones.
Happy birthday.
We're gonna sing. We would do it, but there's a delay on the Zoom, and it'd be like row your boat down the shore, merrily, merrily. All right.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So, nothing really that stands out on our monthly report. I will tell you that if you look at the revenue under Section A for inmate housing, in the first 3 months of the fiscal year, December through February, we're down about $37,000 from this time last year. And believe it or not, that number is actually less than what we anticipated it would be. And one of the main reasons, for those of you that don't know, we are actually housing some inmates from Champaign County. So the loss of ICE, while obviously impactful, not quite as impactful. So that's been a plus. Champaign County is redoing some HVAC, and they are trying to they had to move inmates to do that, and this is going to be a project that's going to last for some time. So I guess that would be good news for us. So and further down on the report, a couple things. The new sections that we added something regarding mental health calls that our officers are responding to. And as you can see, in the month of February and through the fiscal year from December to through February, and all these calls happen in February, there were 4 mental health calls that we as law enforcement have to document that they were mental health related. And so that number is there, as well as the number of ODs that we've had. And that number, there were 2 in February and 5 total dating back to 12/1 of 21. But those are just ODs that Sheriff's Office personnel is responding to. So that's all I have on the report.
Any questions on the report, Ms. Weber? Okay.
So a couple things, and I will note for the committee that I am not here asking for any ARPA funds this month, so I think that's 2 months in a row. However, there are things that we are looking at, and some are actually must-haves, but we are looking for other ways to fund them. One of the first things, which isn't quite as expensive as anything else we've asked for, is an updated router for our building. And I know that sounds, and it's about $6,500. And I know that sounds like, what the heck do you need a router for $6,500 for? However, this router is what every police agency, fire agency, and ambulance uses throughout the county to connect with their computer. We still have a working router. However, and I'm going to give you a couple numbers that I have no idea what the hell they mean, because it's computer speak. I'm sure if Kevin pops his head in, he could probably explain it better. But the note I have here is that it allows us to prove our bandwidth from 25 Mbps to 500 Mbps. So for those of you that are computer literate and know what that means, good for you.
Is that upstream and downstream?
You know what? I have no idea what it all means. All we want is the stuff to work, and we want it to work fast and quick and everything else. So, so all of those computers that are in cars across the county. So this 6,500 doesn't benefit just the sheriff's office. Benefits every police agency in the county, every fire agency, and all the ambulances as well. So we are looking for a way to pay for that. So I'm just bringing it to your attention in case I come back maybe later and say, hey, we can't find $6,500. But the next one, obviously, is vehicles. We know that much like number 10 envelopes, vehicles are hard to find as well, but especially police rated vehicles. So we are looking at some options for continuing to maintain our fleet in that 3-year rotation. We do, I believe, and Steve can probably confirm this, have a lease expiring fairly shortly, so that maybe we can continue with that lease without paying anything extra. And we also are also looking for a truck for animal control as well. That truck that they have right now is not running, period, and is too costly to fix, and I don't even know what year it is, but I know it's old. And again, we're not asking for funds yet, we're just giving you a heads up that we probably will be. One of the other issues that we're dealing with right now, much like everybody else is in this community, is pay for our nurses. As most of you are aware, the competition for nurses is very competitive, and we would like to keep as many nurses as we possibly can because they do a heck of a job for us. And so that's something that we are exploring as well, where we need to get that pay to make sure that we're able to keep these individuals working for us. So, but it is very, very competitive. And then a couple more things. So, and again, we are looking at all the other options before we come back to this committee or the Criminal Justice Committee. But one of the things that we have identified as something that we would like to have are body-worn cameras in our jail for everybody. And I know that probably initially sounds like it's going to be a lot of money. However, we already have the system in place so that we wouldn't have to download, we wouldn't have to get another server and all that other stuff that goes with it. We already have that stuff. We do have a handful of body-worn cameras in our jail right now that are rovers, where, and what the rovers do is they are going from housing unit to housing unit, they're doing the transports, they're responding to things that happen in the housing unit. But I think it would be beneficial for not only the inmates, but for our staff to each have a body-worn camera that we can document everything, as opposed to a he said, she said, or a he said, whatever the case may be. Again, we are exploring all kinds of options with grants and all that other stuff before we come back and say, hey, this is going to cost us X amount of dollars. We'd like to have that through ARPA. We want to have whatever money we can find grant-wise, and then come back and say, hey, we would have needed this, but we got grants, so we don't need quite as much. So, and I'm sure for those of you that listen to the news or read the newspaper, you saw the article about the 2 individuals who fired shots in Bourbonnais, carjacked a car, and drove through Bourbonnais, Bradley, Kankakee, and ultimately ran into our squad cars, of course. Not our case, but our 2 squad cars are the ones that got sustained the damage. However, the good news is the 2 bad guys are in custody. We had 2 officers who were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. They were treated and released. And as the report said, there were 3 guns, fully loaded guns found in those cars. So everybody, community and our law enforcement community, was very lucky. Not only that we got the guns back, but that nobody was seriously hurt, and that the 2 bad guys are in jail. With that said, I think one thing that this committee needs to keep in mind is January 1st of 2023 is when our state is going to start no cash bail, and the effects that that will have not only financially from those individuals that are posting bond right now, and for those individuals that won't have to post bond after January 1st, and the financial impact that will have on all of us. We are hoping that something happens in Springfield between now and then. But we all know how Springfield works, and so we will continue to work towards some solution, because it will be, you know, we have people out of jail right now who shouldn't be out of jail, but it'll get 100 times worse on January 1st of 2023. So keep that in mind. And lastly, I believe that we are real close with the Illinois Department of Corrections. I am just waiting on a confirmation conference call to go over a couple discrepancies that we had in our billing between the Department of Corrections and Kankakee County. And I was told that once that happens and everything gets confirmed, it should be anywhere from 7 to 10 days before we actually get a check. So I'll believe that when I see it, but that's where we're at with that right now. So that's all I got.
Any questions for Mike? Mr. Weber?
I just read in a Dwight newspaper that Pontiac's inmates were being transferred. I wondered if
Well, that's correct. IDOC's population is at its lowest that it's ever been. They are continuing to release people early. In some cases, regardless of their charges. And once, and I know I've talked to the Criminal Justice Committee before, but some things that, you know, people don't realize is that when you hear something or read something in the paper that this defendant received 6 years in prison, well, they don't spend 6 years in prison. I mean, they walk in the door, most cases, with the exception of some of those crimes against persons, but in most cases, somebody walking into prison is getting 50% off their sentence from day one. So you get 6 years in prison and bang, you walk in the door and they know they're getting out in 3 years. And then they can do things while they're in the prison system, whether it be education, whether it's work, whatever they do, additional good behavior, to get even less time off their sentence. So, you know, when somebody says, oh yeah, so-and-so was sentenced to 6 years in prison, and then in a year and a half you see him out, that's why. So, and that's part of the problem. I mean, you know, anybody can go and follow the rules if they know that they're gonna get a benefit out of it for X amount of time, and then get out of prison and then come back here, and then, you know, we hope that some of the things they do, whether it's education, whether it's work, whether they pick up a trade, that once they're there and they can do that and they get out, the hope is that they don't repeat and they don't end up back in prison. Unfortunately, we all know that that doesn't happen sometimes. So
Thank you.
Any other questions? I will say just 1 second, Mr. Hunter, the body cameras. There's a lot of frivolous lawsuits that come out of the jail. That's the majority of what we see. And each one of them is a little ding off of our tort fund. And pretty soon the dings equal a loud clang on the bell, if you will. And I'm wondering if we do some type of a study. It seems to me if you had video evidence from the point of the alleged incident, there's a better chance it doesn't go through summary judgment. Right. You know, it just stops there, and then we don't start incurring the deductible expense and everything after that. So I think that this would pay for itself over time, my own opinion, but I wonder if we can engage our liability carrier to run some kind of numbers.
I think it would pay for itself quicker rather than later.
Yeah. But I think it's a worthwhile conversation, because between a grant and then what we gain on reducing the tort liability and the money that's associated, it seems like it might pay for itself over time, and however long that time is.
And that's what we're trying to do, obviously, the liability standpoint, not only for the county, but for our employees. Because just like we've always said with body-worn cameras on our deputies, it's going to help our guys 99.9% of the time. So,
It's
agreed.
2 ways. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, Mr. Hunter, sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Downey, I had a discussion with Chairman Wheeler regarding the Animal Control Services agreement with the city of Kankakee. What prompted that discussion was that there's some ladies over here in Marycrest had some concerns about rodents because there are a lot of them, come across the fields from I-57 into the neighborhoods and stuff. In fact, one lady wanted to know if I knew anybody who had some old golf clubs. I said, I never knew that. She said,
that was Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, she said, Steve, I know you got friends who golf. They have any old golf clubs? I said, yeah, I know what. She says, well, a girlfriend of hers was talking about one of the critters looking through the window at one of their home. I said, oh, okay. And also she was talking about groundhogs next door to me, etc. So anyway, I mentioned that to Chairman Whelan, and also had a discussion with Mayor Curtis. He said, yep. Chairman Whelan did have a conversation, and that matter was turned over to one of his department heads last fall. And here we are embarking on spring, and it hasn't been done yet. But he mentioned, in fact, even last night when I saw him, he indicated that he's trying to put that on the fast track. But hopefully that agreement will be done. And as much as Kankakee is the largest entity in the county, and we probably have a lot of different calls, and I think it would be cost effective, for our constituents if we had an agreement. The city of Kankakee had an agreement with the county. So I just want to mention that. So I'm going to be following up with Mayor Curtis again on this particular matter and push this thing.
And we have reached out. Obviously, the city's aware of that potential. Right now, we still have the Bradley or Bourbonnais contract, Aroma Park. I don't know if we got anybody
Buckingham?
else. Yeah, Buckingham and Shabance, I think.
Yeah.
One of the things, though, I would caution, I don't believe those agreements take into consideration rodents. I think those are more private company issues who deal with the rodents. Animal control really doesn't deal with the rodents per se.
So raccoons, possums, and stuff.
Yeah, those are wildlife companies that deal with those things.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm dating myself when I say this. I remember when Jim Moss was around working as well, and I know they brought traps over to my next door neighbors, and we caught 3 raccoons. And I thought that was within the purview of an agreement. So I think raccoons are rodents, right?
Well, I think there's some training issue and some things that they have to be trained with that they are not. So those are specifically trained individuals who deal with the rodents.
Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have some ongoing discussion.
Yeah, we'll have some more conversation about it. We want to take care of it either way.
I know that they do interact with raccoons. I've heard stories, but it's usually when the raccoon is attacking an animal or something like that. They'll snare it to get it out of there and have to get rid of it. But when I say get rid of it, just relocate it somewhere. So please don't email or call my office about Andy the raccoon.
Kill it.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Thanks, Sheriff. Is there a motion to go into executive session, purchase of real estate 55 ILCS 5/5-1005? Mr. Miller, second.
Polk.
Ms. Polk, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lear?
Mr. Lear? Aye.
Okay. Mr. Hess? Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Mr. Payton?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
You can have mine delivered, thank you.
Is there a motion to have hers? No, I'm just kidding. We're back from executive session, all members still present. At this time, is there any old or new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, Pat Polk.
Yes, Dr. Polk, a second. Mr. Miller. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, same sign. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.